Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today we're talking about why you should not buy a Motorguide Xi3 or an Xi5. I'm James and this is Clearwater Fishing. I do how-tos, I do reviews, I do fishing vlogs, and anything else fishing related I do right here on this channel to help teach you how to catch more fish. So be sure you subscribe to my channel, hit that notification bell, and I will definitely teach you how to catch more fish. But why shouldn't you buy a Motorguide Xi3 or Xi5? At $1,000, the Motorguide Xi3 may be extremely attractive, especially since it has a spot lock feature on it. Well, I'm here to tell you that's about all it's good for. Let's jump on out to the boat and we'll cover the three main reasons that you shouldn't buy a Motorguide Xi3, and I'll cover them from the least important reason to the most important reason. So mounting a transducer on the Motorguide Xi3 is really difficult because you don't want to smash or slash your wires. It is possible. I do have a video, I'll link it up in the cards above, on how to do it, but it's really difficult, and I surely wouldn't want to put like a live scope transducer, you know, something that costs about $1,000 on this guy, because the potential of slashing one of these wires is really high. Let me give you a sneak peek real quick. I'm gonna open her up there. And all these wires are right here, and if they get underneath the motor as you're either retracting or maybe get hung up here, you're gonna have a bad day. So I'm always really careful when I'm deploying or retracting the trolling motor, that I make sure that I know where the wires are going. So that is the number one reason, or the first reason, that you shouldn't buy a Motorguide Xi3. So deploying the trolling motor is the second reason that I wouldn't suggest buying the Motorguide Xi3. It's not that easy, and it's pretty difficult, and if you're not physically adept to do this over and over again, I wouldn't recommend buying it for sure. Or if you're elderly or gonna use this as like your last trolling motor or last boat that you're gonna buy, still wouldn't recommend it. So I'm gonna go through the process real quick. It's not that easy because you gotta hunch over the trolling motor to press this pedal, and then since I have a transducer on here, I have to watch the wires to make sure they don't get hung up. So I'm already hunched over, not really in a good space. My knee's bent is about as far as it's going to go. And then you have to lower the trolling motor and make sure the wires don't get hung up. Then at this point, you're pretty good. Find the latches and you're complete. And then, you know, retracting is not that easy. You're going to be reaching here. You got to still press the switch again. And then you got to pull. And you're going to put the trolling motor back in its spot. You're still hunched over. You got to make sure the wires are guided correctly so they don't get pinched. And then you're done. This whole process is with me on the bow of the boat in a bad position, hunched over. The foot pedal is the absolute worst thing about the Motorguide Xi3 and the Xi5. This guy is straight up awful. So when you buy the Motorguide Xi3, it comes with a remote, and that's it. So for a bass fisherman, it's not really all that handy to, you know, have a remote in your hand all the time, or even have it on a lanyard, because you can't move the boat and be casting or doing something with your rod and reel at the same time. So you have to stop and do something with a button. So I went on Amazon and searched up a foot pedal for this guy, and I got one of these for 150 bucks. Now, when I was going through the list here, I saw some pretty awful reviews. Most of them about not really being able to turn, or being too sensitive, or not enough sensitive. You know, not really that sensitive, I guess. So I was like, I'm sure it's just a few disgruntled people who really didn't know what they're talking about, or just got a bad one or something. So I purchased one of these guys, and I absolutely had to stand on the heel to make it turn left. I don't even know if this one's on right now. Let's see. It's not on. Now it's on. I had to stand on the heel to make it turn left. Now, while we're here, let me kind of tell you how it works. On the foot pedal itself, I don't know if it's real easy to see, but there's these little magnets here. And then once they're in proximity of the sensor that's on the circuit board, it activates just an on and off switch. So it's not really how strong the magnetic field is around the magnet. It's about how close it is, and then it just triggers in an on or off position. So if it senses, hey, I'm getting the left sensor. That was scary. If I'm getting the left sensor, I'm going to turn left. Get the right sensor, I'll turn right. So depending on how strong the magnet is that they install, which I'm pretty sure at this point that it's a very poor quality because the consistency in the trolling motor itself day to day is not that consistent. Some days I'll have to stand on it, some days I won't. So that's my first complaint about the foot pedal. Yeah, there's more than one complaint on the foot pedal. So the next complaint is coming from spot lock or anchor mode or whatever you want to call it. So I'm going to activate it here in the garage. I'm going to make sure. Okay. It's trying to keep me in the same spot here. Now, in order to go from anchor mode to, like, say I want to move again, I can't just simply press on the trolling motor and try to make it go somewhere. I have to press anchor mode. Okay, I turned anchor mode off. Now I should be able to go somewhere. Well, I can turn, but it won't activate the prop. Nothing on the prop. So I won't be able to activate the prop until I turn it on the continuous button. Now it's on. Now it's off, and now the intermediate button here is going to work. I don't know if you guys can hear it, but now it's working. So that's a huge frustration to have that many steps to go from anchor mode or spot lock just to back to moving. On the old Trex and the other trolling motors, all you got to do, sit your foot back on it and just turn a little bit, and hey, we're on our way, and we're going to go after that next spot or wherever we're going to next. A little explanation at the end here. So the continuous button, the anchor mode or spot lock mode, whatever you want to call it, and the intermediate button are all physical switches. They don't have this magnetic crap going on, so it actually triggers a switch and activates it on and off. What's confusing to me about this is sometimes I'll be using the intermediate button here to turn it on and off, just trying to move around and that kind of thing. It'll stay on once I leave. And it doesn't happen all the time. It only happens some of the time. I don't know why the trolling motor stays engaged even though the switch is clearly not engaged. I don't understand why it does that from time to time, so be warned. This guy may throw you out of the boat if you're not paying attention, mostly because sometimes you just set your foot on it and it's just going to take off left or right and you're like, whoa, easy guy. Trolling motor, really not worth buying just because of this guy. I didn't quite finish my story. The one that I had to stand on, I ended up returning and getting this one. This one still didn't work as well. At least I didn't have to stand on it to make it turn left. I've actually done a little bit of modifications to this one. I've put some washers underneath where the magnet goes to get it a little closer. That helps it out a little bit, but this guy's still really, really not that good. That's really bad. It's pretty awful. So if you're thinking about getting the Motorguide Xi3, I would definitely consider not getting the foot pedal. And if I needed the foot pedal, I would definitely save my money and get something, a little upper in class, like the old Trex, the Ghost, or the Force. One of those three, I believe, will be a lot more trustworthy than this guy and less likely to throw you out of the boat. I know I spent a lot of time bashing this foot pedal, but if you're not going to use the foot pedal, $1,000 for this guy isn't that bad. It's actually a pretty good solid price. You know, the difficulties deploying, retracting, and the transducer, most people can get over that, especially if you're, you know, pretty able and pretty handy with some methods of making things work. I do have one last comment. I did put this guy next to my buddy who had an Ultrex. It seemed like his boat and my boat are a little different in size. He has a larger fiberglass boat and had the 36 volt trolling motor. This is only the 24 volt. But we were both doing our spot lock thing, and he moved probably 2 to maybe 3 feet out of in a radius, where I was moving like 4 or 5 feet. So the spot lock isn't as good as probably some of the other trolling motors out there, but it still does a really solid job. Like when you have to retie or something, you don't have to worry about hitting the rocks on the bank or something. Well, that's where I am going to leave this video. With all the different kinds of trolling motors out there, I'm sure others of you have complaints about your current trolling motor. So be sure to let me know about it in the comments below. Spread your knowledge to others that may be looking at trolling motors as well. But like always, until next time, get out there and go catch you some fish.